Hi, this is Matt from Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, and you're listening to another fantastic show on the Self-Defense Radio Network. Visit selfdefenseradio.net to check out all the other great shows.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hi, and welcome to the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're recording this one on Monday, April the 27th, 2020. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Rob Morris, and on tonight's show, we'll talk with Matt Larosiere from Firearms Policy Coalition.
I'm John Richardson, and we'll talk about the Supreme Court ruling that the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association case was moot.
I'm Gary Doherty, and we have a DGU in a pool. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 540 of the Polite Society podcast starts right now. Well, it's another Monday. We're still all locked down. Rob, have you broke free yet, or are you still in your prison in Louisiana down there?
And our governor just extended our quarantine for 2 more weeks. I think he's waiting until we come up with ransom and buy our freedom. I've written almost nothing about guns. I've carried every day. I have dry practiced, but I've been writing a lot about the silliness of quarantine. John, you've been writing. I've been watching it.
And first, I'd like to say happy birthday, Rob.
Thank you, John.
Ooh.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I have been blogging. I've been dry fire practicing, and I've been cleaning some stuff. I found an old Buck 110 knife that had been my dad's that was kind of tarnished. I cleaned it up, and the brass bolsters shine. Other than that, it's the same old COVID-19 stay at home, work at home, etc. Just like the rest of us.
I hear you, John, but I call it the Wuhan flu. I'm staying at home, working at home. I have to say, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, I like leaving the house even less than I used to. So I work at home. I've always worked at home. And, well, always for the past 10 years. And I like it. So doing all these virtual meetings works for me. Dana?
Well, I haven't gone off the deep end yet. But, we're now able to go to the golf course and a boat with the motor and buy plants up here in Michigan. But, spending time around the house doing the yard cleanup still and getting ready to put up some privacy fence. And of course, while I'm out there, I'm listening to podcasts as usual, such as Modern Self-Protection and Gun Freedom Radio, Self-Defense Gun Stories, and so on. So,
what about Eye on the Target Radio?
Oh, that too.
Good.
I was going to say, he doesn't listen to that one.
I was doing the Friday, Saturday, Sunday releases. So
okay.
I'm getting everybody from Self-Defense Radio Network on.
The weekends get kind of busy. Everybody's downloading that, aren't they?
Really? It kind of tapers off a bit, actually. But
got there. Yeah. So I spent some time today talking with the planning team from the Rod of Iron Freedom Festival that's going to be taking place in Scranton, Pennsylvania, when we're all done with the COVID lockdown. So looking at that, so they have really, really lined up a line of speakers for that is going to make October really cool. So Paul, Susan.
Well, first of all, I want to say hey to Adam Turner and Charlie Chambers, both who checked in on social media already. And Charlie, thank you. I've been doing some work to the broadcast setup, and things should look a whole lot more professional now. I had to learn to do some of it because the the Guns 101 just didn't look like I wanted it to, and so I had to dig deep into the software and got all that straightened around, and I learned a whole ton of new stuff, including how to do a lot more automating in the process. So I'm a little less busy when I'm doing the show than I have been previously. But for me, made a run down to my favorite state to run to, down to Florida, and came back and have had, I got back, Susan, I can't remember. Did I get back Friday or Saturday? I don't remember. I think I got back Friday, didn't I?
Friday.
Okay. And
Because I worked Saturday morning and you got to sit here while I worked.
yeah.
Slacker.
Yeah. So, yeah, I made my run to Florida, and that's one run where I only have to do the disarmament dance if I stop in Illinois, and I did not. I drove straight through without stopping, so I didn't have to do disarmament dance at all during my trips last week. And Susan, how about you? What's been up with you since the last time you've been on the air?
I'm working. That's about it. I'm slowing down. I only put in 48 hours last week.
There you go. There you go. All right, training. Theoretically, this may change tomorrow. It may change the next day, but we still have coming up the end of May, active self-protection. Coming up to do a class in Sioux Falls. Head to activeselfprotection.com to sign up for that one. Anybody else got any training they want to talk about?
I want to take some when the epidemic's over.
Yes.
Me too.
All right. And then again, well, technically Dana already did this for us, but I would like to ask everybody, please, 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 if you would, check out the other shows on the Self-Defense Radio Network. Those of you watching on Facebook right now or watching on YouTube can see that we've got a lot of great shows on SDRN. Shows like Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns, Gun Freedom Radio, Survival Basic Badassery. There's this Amanda and Rob that do this Eye on the Target radio thing that I probably should check out sometime. Riding Shotgun. We got a whole bunch of great podcasts. Check them out sometime if you would. That's at selfdefenseradio.net. And we're going to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got our guest, Matt Larosiere from the Firearms Policy Coalition. We're going to be talking about the on-again, off-again ammo background check bill in California. We'll be back with that right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Masad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Givens, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
Hey, and welcome back. This is our interview segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Speaking of the Firearms Policy Coalition, when everything started happening on Friday out in California, I reached out to Brandon Combs and said, hey, would somebody be able to come on the show and talk about it? He said, yeah, no problem. And then things really started happening. And thank you to Matt. And I hope I'm getting this last name right. Larosiere?
Larosiere.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Matt decided, yeah, he's got a little bit of time. He could come on, even with everything flying out there recently. Thank you, Matt, for joining us. And thank you for doing. Matt is, of course, the. I want to make sure I get this right. He is the
Legal Affairs Director?
Director of Legal Policy with the Firearms Policy Coalition. So, Matt, thanks for coming on the show. And let's go back to. First of all, we started hearing that the ammo background check law, that there was an injunction preliminary, and then all of a sudden, in about 24 hours, there wasn't. What happened, and what's the status right now?
Okay, thanks for having me, first of all. So it's important to understand that this case was about preventing people who were not prohibited from having a firearm from getting access to their ammunition. It was more about, it wasn't about the background checks per se, it was more about the amount of burden, the amount of onus that you put on law-abiding, normal people who are just trying to get access to their, fundamentally protected right to keep and bear arms. Because, a gun without ammunition is like a car without gas or tires or something like that, right? So, at the outset, it was an interesting 24 hours. You have Judge Benitez, who's a great federal circuit judge down there in California, who basically recognized, yes, absolutely, ammunition is protected by the Second Amendment, for the same reasons I just kind of said, and that basically the state just completely failed to carry its burden, and that this background check and this fees and the incredible burden that was being placed on people, which interestingly, one of the reasons they did the background check, one of their purported reasons, was to prevent people from stockpiling ammunition. But it had the opposite effect, right? Because you only want to go through this horrible process once, so you just buy as much as you can afford. So that was pointed out. It was a really good ruling on the preliminary injunction. So, but that's all it was. It was a preliminary injunction, which is saying, okay, now, basically what the judge was saying is the case is still ongoing, but we think that the plaintiffs have brought such a good case and they have shown, that they've been damaged in such a serious way that it justifies us, before the case is over, telling the defendants that they have to stop this conduct. So that's what that means. And then, of course, the defendant asked to stay the ruling, which staying just kind of means it means staying, putting a pause on it, right? Benitez denied this, and then within 24 hours, they went up to the Ninth Circuit, who apparently had nothing better to do at 9:45 p.m. on a Friday, but to protect, these California infringers and effectively stop this injunction from going forward. So that was the back and forth. So we had preliminary injunction, state defendants asked to remove the injunction. Benitez says no. They go straight to the Ninth Circuit, which usually takes forever, and they, extraordinarily grant that relief right away.
Matt, let me ask you a question. As I understand it, they gave an administrative stay, but was not on the merits, and they were going to schedule hearings on the merits of a stay later.
Right.
Do you think they'll overturn that? And first of all, let me also point out, this isn't FPC's case. This is a great Second Amendment lawyer. Chuck Michelle is handling it. They're doing a great job. You can't predict these things, but you can kind of know, right? These are all these things are happening are supposed to be emergency, only for very special circumstances, and they're doing it, and it's pretty clear when you see them flip the ruling around that quickly. What I think that makes the intent pretty clear. So yeah, they'll have a hearing, but there's been a lot of hearings in Second Amendment cases in California over the years. That said, things are shifting, the demographics are shifting, and we are, FPC and other organizations are working hard to educate the public and also the legal institutions out there as to what the true meanings and the true
tests that need to be performed in Second Amendment cases. So, it could go well, but I'm sure you have the same gut feeling that everyone else does.
It's the Ninth Circuit.
The Ninth Circuit.
Matt, I read Judge Benitez's response. I've never seen a 120-page response granting a preliminary injunction. That wasn't the decision. That was the justification for the injunction. It read a lot like the decision. When you read it, did you read it the same way?
Yeah, I think that there was, he did it for a reason. That's what I think. I think that he wanted it to be clear because he knew that it was going to be appealed, right? And when these things go on, there are certain standards, right?
Right.
He made sure the record was replete so nobody could say that he was abusing his discretion, right? Or that the plaintiffs hadn't proven, by the required standard. He wanted it all to be there black and white, that his preliminary injunction was supported by the facts and by the law. And so he went out of his way to make sure the record showed every single justification that he had for his actions. And that is, really good judging, to be frank. But yeah, usually in a motion for preliminary injunction, they'll just puke up the legal standard and say that it's been met, and then you're off to the next thing.
I'm thinking for the decision, he changes the date, the description, and marches on, because I don't know what else he could include.
I guess we'll get to see how the defendants behave in the coming weeks or months, until it comes back. But it's you've probably seen decisions that were longer. There's I don't think that you could fit all of the abuses that the state defendants have made to the people's Second Amendment right in a whole federal reporter. I think I think that would be this thick. So there's always more.
What's interesting, though, I guess, for Judge Benitez now, he's going to say, okay, here are all the good arguments on how to try the case. Let's see what the Ninth Circuit objects to. If they reverse my stay, okay, now then he knows what to answer in his decision. Interesting.
Yeah, and also, doing a 120-page order granting a stay, it certainly sends a message that if you're going to oppose this, you better do your homework. So who knows? Maybe we'll get to see the other side showing their cards. But frankly, I don't think the other side really has cards. This is, I've been suspicious that, the judges in the Ninth Circuit for a long time just have a personal anti-firearms animus. And so we'll get to see this come out. If they respond, after the hearings and everything, and the stay is maintained with a 2-page order, right? We'll see.
We're not persuaded by the evidence. We remove the stay, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we'll see, and this is gonna make everyone who's watching, right? It's because Benitez put his cards on the table. He said this is all the reasons, right? He wasn't playing ball. He wasn't playing poker. He put it all out there. So we're going to see what cards the other side has if they're going to go that direction. It's very it's a very interesting time to be watching this stuff unfold. That's for sure, because that's going to be such a negative inference if you respond to all of that, and not just good legal writing, but good writing. That was a good read. It wasn't boring at all. Yeah, if you respond to that with blah 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 boilerplate.
We disagree. Blah blah. Take that.
Yeah. Yep.
We also had a case from the Supreme Court today of huge embarrassment in the case of New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus New York, which has been in the courts for 7 years.
Right.
Which both the southern region of New York and the 2nd District, got monstrously wrong. They said, oh, yeah, the New York is right that you can restrict the legal transportation of personal and firearms for a legal purpose. No problem with that. And the Supreme Court said, oh, it's moot. I'm thinking it's not New York City that needs to be fixed, but the courts. And the Supreme Court closed their eyes.
So this cuts pretty deep. So, for those of you in the audience who haven't necessarily been following too long with NUSERPA, with New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, what that is a city law that basically says if you have a firearms permit, if you have a registered firearm here, you can't take it outside of the city. And that was, the only place you could take it was to a gun range inside the city, of which there was only one that wasn't like a super expensive boys members club type thing. So that means you've got another house upstate, can't go there. You want to go to competition outside of the state, can't go there. And they had defended, the city had defended this law tooth and nail, like you were saying, for years and years and years. Then suddenly, the Supreme Court actually takes cert. They take up the case. Instantly, they do an about face. The chief of police starts trying to issue a new rule, right? Before they can even take the law off the book, issuing a rule, eliminating it. Then they work together with the state legislature to preempt the city from ever doing anything like this again. Basically, it was like all of these politicians, they knew that they were infringing the Second Amendment so bad that they all worked together to just make it impossible for the court to hear the case. So why does it make it impossible for the court to hear the case? Well, it's actually something that's written in our Constitution. Under Article 3, federal courts need to have standing in order to hear a case. And this is something that's in the Constitution. And standing is bad for justice. I'm going to come out and say it. If I had written the Constitution, I would have not required standing at all. I mean, sure, that would have meant you could bring a lot more lawsuits, but I think that's a better way to get justice. So it's almost kind of a loophole in standing, is that if the government actor cancels the law, pulls it back, and then does something to show that they can't just do it again tomorrow, the courts are supposed to, go hands off. Now, people talk about these Supreme Court doctrines, which is capable of repetition yet evading review. That's what they did in the abortion cases, because every single time there was a plaintiff, the case would take longer than 9 months. And so, the abortion's not really relevant anymore. So the court actually came up with these things. And this is the thing you have to understand. That's not in the Constitution. They kind of invented that. So when you're dealing with the wing of the courts, right? So in the abortion cases, the judges that were trying to, hear those cases, they don't really care that much about the text of the Constitution, right? But then on the gun case, just the way it lines up politically, and I don't know why, you are generally more textualist, right? And these are people who are hardcore, what the Constitution says is what it means. And, that's where I am virtually all of the time. Standing is one area that is just so hard, where they actually do eliminate, the case or controversy. If you are a hardcore textualist when it comes to the Constitution, you're going to have a hard time justifying why the court should ignore the command of the Constitution and hear the case. Personally, I believe in the doctrines, because I don't think that you should be able to just go, never mind, right? Which is basically what New York did, and be able to evade it forever. And standing is the same reason we're going to have a hard time challenging all of these quarantine orders, right, that don't exclude First Amendment protected activity. It's the same thing. It's a huge stumbling block for justice. But what would be nice? One thing that would be nice if the wing of the court that wants to help the Second Amendment were to say, all right, because NUSERPA, they took the tiniest little grain of rice they could get. That was it was the most specific little thing, because they just wanted to explain the doctrine more. But now it's almost as if the gun controllers are tying their hands and saying, well, you're going to have to pick one of the assault weapons cases, I guess. Right? So that would be a cool thing.
Yeah. Matt, we're coming up on break. Can I have you hang out with us for one more segment?
Sure.
All right. Folks, we are going to step aside to break. When we come back, we'll have more right after this. This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off. Hey, and welcome back. This is the Polite Society podcast powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Once again, we're still here with Matt Larosiere of the Firearms Policy Coalition. And Amanda, I think you had a question in show notes, and I'm going to go ahead and throw to you first.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm really interested in Matt's opinion on a couple things, because to me this is so interesting and so exciting to watch what's happening with the Supreme Court and the different courts and stuff. And I know that the Supreme Court currently has sitting kind of in the wings like 10 different cases that we're now wondering which one of those they're going to pick up. But then out of the blue, just completely out of the blue, the Supreme Court started asking questions about a gun case out of California, Rodriguez versus the city of San Jose. What do you make of that?
I think that they've known for a while that NUSERPA had its problems. So I think they're looking closely at the record, and I think there's a lot of cases that pose a lot of different, very good questions, to be honest. So I think they make no mistake. I don't think that they're just going to let this slide and let us sit for another 10 years without a decision on the Second Amendment, because what we desperately need, what we really need, is for the Supreme Court to say, no, you can't just say it satisfies the Second Amendment and then let everything go, because that's been the prevailing approach in the circuit courts for the past 10 years, is they say, okay, now we apply the Second Amendment. It passes, right? That's the depth of the analysis, basically. So we just need any case where they can go a little deeper. So the question of whether it be a case involving carrying firearms outside the home, whether it be a case involving assault weapon restriction, ammunition restrictions, magazine capacity, I think at the end of the day, it won't matter that much, because I think that their opinion is going to be super narrow, but it's the effect that the standard that they issue is going to have going down.
So they're finally going to have to examine the issue of strict scrutiny.
Well, and part of this is won't the other courts then start to anticipate what the Supreme Court may say if they get a case, and so it makes the courts a little more constitutional as they go by, if the Supreme Court starts paying attention to those kind of cases? Is that?
Yeah, so it had been kind of like an open secret that the Supreme Court didn't want to hear another gun case over the past decade. And there was even articles written by, these Ivy League clowns that basically said, we're commanding lower court and circuit court judges to restrict from below Second Amendment precedent. So that's basically saying, it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says, just, ring fence it as much as you can into this tiny little hole, and we'll deal with it later once we control the court. And, that's the problem, is that this has become so political, right? There is a we control the court and they control the court. Whereas that wasn't so extreme before a certain switch in time, in the New Deal era.
Yeah. That saved 9. Justice Kavanaugh seemed to telegraph in his concurring opinion today that he really did want to hear one of the 2A cases.
Yes, and Kavanaugh was on one of the cases that led to Heller as well at the D.C. circuit. So we know Kavanaugh is not anti-2A. We haven't gotten to see enough of his writings getting into the meat and potatoes of it because he's felt bound previously. But I think, make no mistake, Kavanaugh, Thomas, and Gorsuch are all ready to go, and in a good way.
I guess I have a question, and that's any narrow ruling. Well, as you pointed out very accurately, Matt, the lower courts have said we can violate the Second Amendment with immunity because there are more of us than there are of them. They don't take enough cases to matter at the Supreme Court. And the only correction that the Supreme Court has is to finally stand up and use a broader brush to say, these are the required standards. Do you have any insight as to why the court has been so reluctant to address that issue now for decades?
So the doctrine of judicial avoidance is a problem here, where they will always try to avoid disturbing the status quo. If there's any way that they can avoid answering a constitutional question on its face, they take it. And so they couldn't avoid that with the Second Amendment cases. They had to say something. And so they've been trying to say, it seemed like with Heller, they were trying to say as little as they needed to say to get through to the next step, which is, hey, Second Amendment is real. Lower courts start, doing your thing. And they were doing their thing. We've only seen like a tiny handful of cases actually of laws be overturned on Second Amendment grounds since then. So then what's that telegraphing to the Supreme Court, which is you have to be clearer. And you mentioned strict scrutiny, right? Standards of review. A clear standard was not established in the Supreme Court case. It didn't at all. And so, I don't believe in tiered review. I think that the question is, does it violate a right? Okay, you can't do that. So to me, everything that involves our fundamental rights should be strict scrutiny. But is the court too timid about tripping over in, being seen as responsible for undoing all of this law? Will they be too timid to say, what I think they should say, which is any law that restricts the peaceful possession of firearms is unconstitutional? I think that would be a pretty fair ruling, right? That doesn't say anything about, keeping guns away from people who are dangerous felons. That doesn't say anything about using guns in connection with violent crime. It's only about the peaceful just having of a firearm. I think that would be a pretty clear and easy rule. The rule that they ultimately deliberate and decide on, I really don't know where it's going to go. I hope we go closer to strict scrutiny, because if they just say intermediate scrutiny, I think we'll be back up where we started.
Oh, be worse.
Yeah.
Gary, what do you think?
Well, I've seen a lot of these cases, gun cases, abortion cases, and it seems as though the press and some politicians will blatantly try to pressure the Supreme Court into the deciding on their side. I remember Chuck Schumer screaming that Gorsuch and Kavanaugh's names at a rally. Have we ever thought about doing something like that, or would something like that even work?
I don't want to contribute to the politicization of the court. I think that the best thing we can do is speak clearly and honestly about our disapproval of these laws that are unconstitutional. Everybody should just be speaking casually about the fact that, why is it that there's a federal ban on importing semi-automatic weapons that are useful? Why is it that I, have to pay a tax to get a suppressor, and I also have to pay a tax to get a machine gun, but I'm not allowed to do it if it's a little bit newer? That seems weird. Why aren't people just openly talking about these things? That's what we need to do. Let's not push if we're going to push a needle, let's push on the needle of gun rights, which means getting more people into it, which might mean people that, if you're on the right of the spectrum, maybe you should be talking to some people on the other side about why you think it's important that we have our rights and the real emotional and logical reasons for it. I think that's the best way to go, if we're going to get a change, because guess what? The court is a group of people just like everything else, and they're susceptible to public opinion. So, the less the public approves of unconstitutional laws, like the sporting purposes test, like the National Firearms Act, like all of like everything in California ever, the more we talk about this and the broader consensus, the better it's going to be.
I think we forget that, especially when you get to the Supreme Court level, you're a judge, but you're also a politician.
Well,
they wouldn't have gotten there unless they were.
Yeah, it wasn't always that way. And it certainly, I don't think it needs to be that way. The only reason it had the opportunity to get that way was because political parties started passing laws that were clearly unconstitutional, like with regularity. And so it became this, thing of, well, how come pro 2A, this is just one example. How come judges who are generally pro 2A very often don't consider the First Amendment very wide and don't consider the Fourth Amendment to protect much conduct, right? The same judge who will be happy to say that this is an infringement of your Second Amendment, in my experience, will also be willing to say, oh, well, that was a reasonable search and seizure. Who says you have to be secure in your cell phone, right? So politics aren't the solution, and I think they're a new thing. In the courts, because previously, when it was just understood that, all right, the federal government has these powers, right, and they're really small. There's not much to do there, right? The federal government isn't that interested in this types of politics that really percolate or are designed to percolate more on the state level. And that's why the 14th Amendment perfects our whole system, because it enables the federal government to come in and say, no, you violated these people's rights.
Matt, what is the Firearms Policy Coalition up to in the courts right now?
Oh, a lot. So still pending in California, we've got Miller, which is a challenge to California, and that's before, I believe it's before Benitez's court, but don't quote me on that. That's a challenge to their assault weapon ban as it applies to firearms with a fixed magazine that's more than a certain size. We are suing literally everyone who with this COVID stuff for shutting down gun shops and preventing people from getting access to firearms, and it seems like that stuff is popping up like weeds. And because of support from all of the people, we've been able to be really active in fighting this stuff. But yeah, no, we've still got the free speech cases on the 3D printable guns going, and we've still got a bump stop challenge pending. So there's, like, to say what the legal department's up to is, you got all day.
Well, that's one thing I do want to kind of get into a little bit, because that's not only Second Amendment, it's First Amendment, and that is the 3D printing of guns. Where does that sit now? And I know that, there you go. I know that, I believe Firearms Policy Coalition has several websites that, codisfreespeech.com. I know that's an FPC site. I promoted it myself. Where is that standing in the courts right now?
It's going through, these things. Once you get through those initial pleadings, things slow down a lot, which might shock you when you're dealing with the government. Once you get through that first step, then there's a lot of back and forth and rigmarole, but we're fighting as hard as ever, and we're being, and especially when I came on, this is kind of like my something that's really close to my heart, because I don't know if you saw, we worked directly with the people in the space who are the ones making this stuff. We put out a music video and designed this Tech 9 as a piece of political expression when Pennsylvania Attorney General Josh Shapiro tried to ban the sharing of files. So, that is like the 3D printing stuff. The speech is something we are very on top of. In fact, we put out a bounty for anyone who could come up with a encryption device that would take printable receivers and turn them into a text file, encrypt them into a text file that was just the text, whatever politician is a tyrant. So now we have all of these like huge text files that just say like the politician's name is a tyrant a bunch of times, and you decrypt it, and out comes your gun file. So the question there is
so cool.
Tell me that's not free speech, right? Tell me that's not speech. This text document, which I could have written with my hands, I could have written 49,000 times that this person is a tyrant. Go ahead and say it's kind of like a challenge. So we're getting a little spicy with it. We're getting we're trying to cut down to the chase because people, and that's why this. I don't know if you guys have seen this. That's why we did this the way it is. Because look at this, right? It says.
Trying to read it.
It says, "We love you, Josh Shapiro," again and again. It's covered in hearts.
Oh wow!
So, and then on the other side we have the serial number with a C.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah. So you look at this, right? Like if this were to be involved in litigation, and you put up it's on the screen, what is the file that you're trying to suppress? If there's a judge that can look at this and tell me straight to my face that this is not political performance art,
yeah, exactly. Well, we are up to the end of a segment again, and I want to thank you again, Matt, for joining us tonight. One thing I know that would help is if the Firearms Policy Coalition had more members. How can people get in touch with you folks? How can they become members of FPC? And just point them in the right direction.
Just go to firearmspolicy.org. We've got Join FPC. We've got a lot of different URLs, but just check us out. We're on Facebook. We got a really good Instagram page going. I post a weekly legal update every week where, I just keep everybody updated on what's going on in the legal community, the Second Amendment. But yeah, follow us on any social media and go to firearmspolicy.org. You can click, the Join Now button and we'll get you set up.
Very cool. Well, thanks again for joining us tonight, folks. We need to step aside to break. When we come back, we'll get into our news segment, and we'll get to that right after this.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by Concealment Solutions. Jason Christensen makes the most comfortable inside the waistband holster on the market, bar none. The Black Mamba. Some of the other products offered are the Sidewinder outside the waistband holster and Python gun belts. Every product that Concealment Solutions makes has unsurpassed craftsmanship that shows in the fit and finish of the product. Visit concealmentsolutions.com to view all of the products available, and you can get 10% off your order when you enter the promo code POLITICS in the promo code box at checkout. That's concealmentsolutions.com.
Welcome back to the news segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. This is our news segment, as I said, and before we get into news, we got a commentary that really didn't fit in with the interview, but I want to get to as we go into the news segment. It's a little lengthy. It won't fit on the screen all the time, but Charlie says, now that several new gun control bills have been signed into law by Virginia's governor, scaled back, however, still unconstitutional, do you know if the Virginia sanctuaries will resist and not comply, or will they go along to get along? Citizens missed the elections, regrouped wonderfully with the sanctuaries, but will they follow through by resisting the new gun laws? I've not heard anything new. And Charlie, I haven't either. I haven't heard a lot. I know the bills did get signed into law, but I don't know anything specifically about resisting. As anybody on my staff, have you heard anything about that?
A little bit.
Okay.
Bloomberg said we're going to take the 2A battle to the states, and we said, you go local, we'll go even more so. And we took it to the counties. We were pretty effective. With these orders, most recently, the cease and desist orders, the close, you no longer have a permit to operate 2 gun stores and ranges in Virginia. A local judge said, yeah, that doesn't apply. My local gun store can open. This is a local judge who said the state's order was unconstitutional. And therefore, oh, Mr. AG, here, you come bring it to me. It's between you and me. Whoa. So, yeah, we're going to see some resistance. Will it be in every town? Will it be in a zoning board who says, I don't care what the governor says. We're good with them being open. We'll see.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really critical, and these elections have shown it, is that we need to pay attention to who the judges are. And frankly, my radio partner, Rob, put it pretty well, is that you go to the ballot box and you vote for a judge. And most people, if you're not somebody who's been pulled in front of a judge, has no idea who the judge candidates are. You might have met them at the fair or a festival or a parade and shook their hand and they had a good solid handshake and you're like, yeah, I guess he's my guy. But you really don't know anything that they stand for. And we need to know more. We as a country need to know more as they're elected within each county.
I call it my local lawyers and say, how is this guy to work in front of? And I get some pretty shocking answers.
Well, the problem in a lot of states is that judges are not elected.
Right.
North Carolina, we elect judges. Ohio obviously does. But many judges are appointed, and then they just get a rubber stamp down the road to say, well, we'll just keep this judge on. And once they're in office, they get to stay virtually forever.
Right.
And the people that are put up to be judges usually come from the bar association, and they're like, okay, this is a good guy. He rules fine for, the ambulance chasers. We like him.
Okay, wait. I want to run with that story right there. Did you see the guy, the student in Harvard in the Zoom classroom where he was cleaning his gun and people are losing their minds and they're trying to say whether it's illegal or not illegal?
To do what?
Okay, he was in a college course, Harvard college course, just like all of us, only he was in the classroom cleaning his gun while everybody else was doing the stuff, right? So they started to lose their mind and say, well, that's illegal because he's in school and he's got a gun.
But he's at home. He's actually in his house, right?
He's actually in his house. Okay. So you got to go look for this story, because the amazing part, I got to see, I might have even thrown it away because when I'm done doing the stories, I pitch them. But the interesting part about the whole article is they went through this whole thing about whether it was legal or not legal. This guy was just appointed. He's ultra conservative, and the classmates are all having a meltdown about the fact that he's an ultra conservative, and that they're also melting down about the fact that President Donald Trump has appointed conservative judges, and so none of these law students want to clerk for these conservative judges, and how they're now saying this conservative guy with his gun is grandstanding so that the Supreme Court and Neil Gorsuch is going to see him and is going to take him, and that's it. And this was his little path. But start paying attention, because the American Bar Association is saying that judges that Trump has appointed are not really the right judges. Qualified. And so they're having a meltdown. So there's this whole second tier to this whole thing about the Bar Association fighting back on the backside of appointing conservative judges.
I found the story. He is the president of the Harvard Law School chapter of the Federalist Society.
Right.
Oh, so, sweet.
Okay, so when you roll through it, the article's like 3 or 4 pages. Get to the get more than past the center line of the article, and it'll start to
Where
flip.
the truth comes out.
Yeah, well, it'll start to flip from talking about this guy in a gun and is it legal to the machinations of the whole law and the board and all of you're reading this going, okay, what's the purpose of this article and what's the meltdown that they're having? So it's pretty interesting, though.
Mm-hmm. Or is it just to point out that we've got a bunch of overeducated idiots? And
well, there's that, and the fact that they don't want to clerk for these conservative judges, which is okay, fine, right?
Sounds like a self-correcting problem.
So yeah, so are we gonna have a problem with that? But I just think it's interesting where the bar took it and all the other stuff with it. So as you'd gone down that path, I just had to keep going. Okay, I'm done now.
All right. What other news should we be talking about? We covered a good deal of the news in our interview, honestly.
Right.
Well, I think we need to talk about Virginia, where at least the one range in Lynchburg is allowed to open up, right? And the judge quoted the Virginia version of the Second Amendment, which goes beyond our Second Amendment. It says, a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state, therefore the right of the people, blah, blah, blah. He looked at that trained to arms part and he said, that is part of the right to keep and bear arms, and what more is to training to bear, trained to arms than being able to go to a shooting range and practice. And he also talked about, in terms of as a public utility, not the range, but for the public interest, the fact that you have a lot of new gun owners, they need safety training, they need a place to practice. He brought that all out in his rule. It wasn't a long ruling; it was about 8 pages.
Did you notice?
Very good.
Did you notice that Northam wanted to get all those objections pushed to the, I believe it's the Fourth Circuit, because he figures he's got a lock there.
He wanted to put it in federal court, and federal court just bounced it back, said, state issue, don't bother us with it.
Sweet. I didn't know that. I love working with you guys.
Well, in the opinion that went along with Judge Yates' thing in Virginia, he also referenced the Ezell case.
Oh, and every time somebody mentions Rhonda Ezell, she's tracking that somewhere because you can hear her clear from Chicago hollering, "Score!"
Yep. But what Northam was arguing, and this guy said, no way. He said that because my job is to see that the laws are faithfully executed, therefore I can ignore laws that limit my authority.
Oh,
excuse me? Oh, the laws that don't make me king don't apply.
Right. And the guy said, the court cannot agree with such an expansive interpretation of the governor's authority. His duty to take that the laws be faithfully executed include the laws that limit his power during emergencies, like, and then he mentions the law.
Yeah. Wow. Good.
One thing I do want to, I'm going to shift the conversation a little bit. One thing I did catch my eye, but I didn't read deeply into it, and I'm hoping somebody else did. Washington, D.C., and this has been the fact for a long, long time. There's exactly one FFL in Washington, D.C. And
you mean the one that closed because it was too busy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, apparently, the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department has been ordered to step in and be the FFL for the city. And I'm just thinking bureaucracy is just going to, it's going to be the most inefficient, backwards FFL in the history of ever.
They actually did apply for an FFL. And because if they didn't,
so this is
then you would have another federal case.
So this is the Washington, D.C. police?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so here's what we need to do. We need to take donations and start shipping Dick Heller guns. We just gift them to him to that FFL, and he can go pick them up.
Okay, but now the cops say, well, I've processed my 3 guns this month. I'll get to you next month.
Okay, well,
at which point we get to sue them into 2021.
You give Dick Heller standing.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to there actually is a case before the Supreme Court right now in America, coming out of the Fifth Circuit down in Texas, Mance versus, well, I guess it'd be Barr now, but it used to be Holder. People from D.C. They basically said there's no FFL. We want to buy a gun in Texas. We found the gun we wanted. We can't have it shipped anywhere.
And why is the background check in Texas materially different than the one in D.C.?
Exactly.
And that's the one I'd like the Supreme Court to pick up.
Because it goes right to the heart of the Gun Control Act of 68, saying that pistols have to be interstate sale of pistols have to go through an FFL.
Right. And then that'll start to address the FFL, the fact that when you move, you have to ship it. You have to ship your guns.
Right.
From state to state.
You don't have to if you move.
You can ship them to yourself.
Yeah, of course.
I've asked Michael Bain.
Okay. I'm going to dig into that some more because that was not my understanding.
No.
Correct me.
Not.
Educate me.
Talk to Michael Bain. He and the ATF have been locked in a love embrace for years over that.
Teach me. Okay.
Okay. That's an interesting question. Which of the court cases, and Matt touched on it, do you think most directly bear on the Second Amendment? We had the right of transport.
You mean the ones that are sitting in limbo right now?
Right.
I have a list of them if you want to know what they are.
Paul, is that how you want to spend our last minutes together here?
We've got 3 minutes left.
Okay, there's 10 cases. And I'll murder all the names, but it's Malpazzo versus Palazzo.
That's out of New Jersey.
Okay, whether licenses can require a good and substantial reason for possessing a gun.
So that would be great because that's shall issue versus may issue.
Right.
Okay, then there's Cheeseman versus Palaleo, whether licenses can require a justifiable need for possessing a gun.
Same.
That's also New Jersey.
Okay, Werman versus Healy, whether assault weapons and large capacity feeding devices can be banned.
That's
Anything
Massachusetts.
that looks like an AR is banned.
Yeah, she went back and retroactively was banning.
Okay, Penna versus Horan, California banning all new handguns that do not include microstamping technology.
The handgun registry.
Handgun registry, right?
Okay, so then Mance versus Barr, whether the federal government can prohibit interstate handgun sales.
Yep.
Okay. Which
Rogers?
is also,
I'm
is that
sorry.
also, do you think, the right to transport? No, that's just, no, okay.
No.
No, that would be being able to go down to Toledo and buy a handgun.
Okay, Rogers versus Grewal, whether licenses can require a justifiable need for carrying a gun.
Right.
It's also New Jersey.
Gould versus Lipson, whether licenses can require a justifiable need for carrying a gun. Okay, another one.
That might be the Maryland case.
Medina versus Barr, a lifetime ban on nonviolent felons.
Yeah.
Geddes versus the ATF, a Florida carry case, the bump stock ban.
Oh, yeah, Geddes. Yeah.
Geddes? Okay, and then...
That's the FPC case.
Okay, and then this one is CIOLEK versus New Jersey, the New Jersey may issue, pro se.
Okay.
You know what? That's the list of them.
Plus, you also have Rodriguez, which you talked about earlier.
Right, but Rodriguez hadn't gone to the Supreme Court, so it's in limbo in a lower court somewhere. Rodriguez, the Supreme Court does not have it on their limbo case.
I think it is. I think it is now.
It sounds like half of those cases are
may issue versus
shall issue.
Yeah.
They're what I didn't hear or didn't recognize was the one out of Illinois.
Oh yeah,
saying,
Culp versus what used to be Madigan.
Right.
No, it's Roll.
Culp versus Kwame, whatever.
Right, which is, hi, you've told me that there is no reciprocity with other states and denied me the ability to apply for a firearm in your state.
Right.
And Kevin Culp was like the consummately good plaintiff.
Yes.
A full bird colonel in the Air Force, resident of Pennsylvania because that was his home of record, NRA instructor, licensed to teach the Illinois course, but could not get a permit himself.
Right.
He could teach it. Yeah, I remember that one. He could teach it, but he couldn't get it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would add that to the list.
Okay.
In the Rodriguez cases, the husband is a prohibited person. She has a gun safe with her own guns in it. He does not have the access, but yet the police department confiscated her guns and will not give them back.
And then they told her that she could have guns now. She just can't have those guns.
I think that would be more of a takings case.
Right.
Be honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we are over on this segment a little bit, so we're going to have to set it aside there.
Okay.
We're going to go to our gun quotes. Necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. And that's William Pitt the Younger. We are going to step aside to break. When we come back, we've got our DGU segment, and you get to hear from my beautiful bride. We'll get to that right after this.
Firearm Safety Institute is one of Northwest Illinois' premier firearm training companies. They provide superior firearm training to all levels of shooters.
Amanda, I put it in
Gary
the show
Doherty
notes
has been a
from the
trainer
ATF.
and concealed weapons permit holder for many years. While living in Nevada, he carried legally and has the experience to train you to do the same. Firearms Safety Institute offers a wide range of courses designed to meet the personal needs of both seasoned shooters and those that are new to the world of firearms. If you are looking to apply for the Illinois Concealed Carry License, Firearms Safety Institute can provide you with the professional training that meets the state's requirements. Gary accommodates classes of all sizes and can provide individualized instruction if that is your personal preference. He's happy to work with you and your friends to arrange private classes and will come to your location and work around your schedule. If you would like to get your Illinois CCW or increase your firearm knowledge or skills, go to firearmsafetyinstitute.com to start the conversation. Mention the Polite Society podcast and receive a 10% discount on your training. Remember, that's firearmsafetyinstitute.com. Get your Illinois CCW today.
And welcome back to our DGU segment, Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. Now, these discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The Defensive Gun Use segment is intended as information, not as training. And as always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations. Susan, we've got two of them tonight. Why don't you take them to Wichita Falls, Texas?
The 25-year-old patient/inmate at the North Texas State Hospital noticed a janitor had laid his keys down on a table. He found the key to get him out of the facility and made a run for it. A short time later, a woman noticed the escapee swimming in her pool in just his underwear. She called 911. While she was on the phone, the unwanted swimmer noticed her looking at him out the back window. He tried to get in the house. By this time, her husband had arrived home and grabbed his shotgun. The 42-year-old homeowner reported that he confronted the escapee, who at first got on the ground, but then he jumped to his feet and charged him. He was shot once in the right leg by the homeowner. Within minutes, deputies and EMS arrived. At United Regional Hospital, they x-rayed him for pellets. They also located the janitor's keys inserted inside him. He was flown to a hospital in Fort Worth where he underwent multiple surgeries. He was court-ordered to the state hospital from Denton County and will be returned to the state hospital.
Wow. Even with mental issues, I think to steal Rob's thunder, there's got to be some toxicology there too.
I don't think so. He was a patient. I think he was just a patient with issues.
This is where he keeps all of his special stuff.
There you
Well,
go.
you know, if you talk to corrections officials, there's always some. That's one of the ways that they smuggle stuff. I hate to say it.
If you don't have pockets.
I heard a whole story about it on NPR once.
Okay. That's one I'm glad I missed.
Okay, I've noticed a number of stories that just happened across self-defense gun stories this last week with Amanda. People having to shoot at a greater than average distance. You got a crazy man in your pool.
You can't shoot him.
You can't shoot him. He's not a problem yet.
Right.
But if dad with the gun doesn't show up, mom's going to stand there like a vegetable. Come on, mom. It's your job too.
There's part of that, but you can't shoot him till he's a threat. And when he's swimming, you're hard pressed to explain that he's a threat.
I get it. I would have left him in the pool, but
No, he got out. He saw her and got out. And fortunately, at the same time, her husband was coming home and grabbed the gun.
that's just luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just lucky.
And Charlie on Facebook says, yet we digress. All right, Susan, let's go to Tacoma.
If you're going for a walk with your best girl, it's best to be practicing pogo, especially at 5:35 a.m. The victim and his girlfriend were walking down the street and noticed two men following them. They stopped at one point to allow the men to pass. The two men also stopped. One of the suspects grabbed the victim by the throat and said, "This is how it's going to go down." The victim shot the attacker once or twice. When the sheriff's deputies arrived, they found the victim suffering from a gunshot wound to the leg. They applied a tourniquet and then discovered the suspect lying in the grass with at least one gunshot wound to the chest. Both men were taken to St. Joseph Medical Center. The suspect was in critical condition. The couple didn't know the suspects. The second suspect ran from the scene and has not yet been identified.
Truly random. I mean, it's fairly rare for a truly random act of violence, but it does happen.
Oh, I need Susan to say this is how it's going to go down all over again.
And he said, "This is how it's going to go down."
Surprise. Maybe not.
That's the best right there.
And that's why they have me read the news.
And there's not a lot of detail in here. 5:35 a.m. I mean, that's early morning. This time of year, that's just about getting to be. That's pre-dawn. It's not dead dark at night like it would be in the middle of the winter. But good on the victim for practicing pogo.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people get up early to exercise before they, take their shower and get ready for work.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it was just still a late evening for them.
Could be.
Yeah.
It's about as late as they get.
Okay,
I'm going to. What would you say here? Was she armed?
I didn't notice anything in the story saying she was.
Remember, Amanda? I don't notice that they actually said which one of the couple was armed. But if you're not, and the first attack wasn't grabbing her by the throat, but him,
right?
She's going to sit there and use harsh language?
Well, it is the guy's job to protect. It's your job to have a job, to feed me, to house me, to protect me, to do all that. And I'm just going to sit here.
Are you a cat?
No, but
and then you want me to go back to work so you can have the house to yourself. I get it.
Right, exactly. No, but that's it's really funny because there is that mindset from some people where it's not my job. It's not my job to protect the family. It's his job. Well, guess what? If he gets taken out, then there's only me. So
you just got a promotion.
Exactly. So why don't I step up early on and make it so it's both of our jobs?
any more about either one of these? I'm not hearing much, so we're going to step aside. We're going to take our final break. When we come back, we've got blog notes, and we'll wrap the show up. We'll get to that right after this.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Firearms Policy Coalition. I would like to encourage everybody, please do come watch our Facebook Live videos where we record these. We do this at about 6:05 p.m. every Monday evening. We don't do it straight up at 6 because Rob is still talking to Bill Frady at about that time. So we give him a few minutes to go do what's necessary and come back, and then we go live at shortly after 6 p.m. Please do
Central
come.
Time.
Yeah, Central Time. Please do come and watch us and comment, and we'll get your comments on the air. And you can email the show if you'd like at onair@politicsandguns.com. We haven't got any recently, but that really doesn't bother me because I'm on the road a lot, and if I do happen to have to record these from the road, it's almost impossible to get them in. So that does it for that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to jump over to Rob. You mentioned as we opened the show up, you haven't been writing a lot about guns, but I know you've been writing.
I've posted 4 articles this week. This abandonment of our rights is frightening to me. And it's media driven. So I wrote about the media. One of the things I wrote was also this medicine looks like a technical field, but there's some pretty simple explanations that I think make things very, very clear. The last article I wrote was the flu season of our discontent. Is this an epidemic or just the common cold? The Wuhan flu is about 1.8 more times more deadly than the flu we have every year. Okay. Go back 1 year to 2017, 2018. The flu killed 61,000 people in the U.S. In the U.S. right now, we think the Wuhan flu will kill 68,000 people. Is it really worth shutting down the economy for that? Here's some things you might need to know before you make a decision. In 2017, same year as the flu, the economy hadn't quite bounced back. When we see a downturn in the economy, we also see a marked increase in suicide, 2 to 3-fold sometimes increase if you're unemployed. And that year, there were 47,000 people who took their own life, more than die in the average year from the flu. We have to be careful that the cure is not worse than the disease. Those articles are at slowfacts.wordpress.com. John, I'm loving what you're doing at No Lawyers, Only Guns and Money.
You may be aware that the gun prohibitionists are all in a tizzy because ATF is now allowing drive-up windows for the delivery of guns. This, of course, is after you've gone through a NICS check and after you've filled out your Form 4473. The anti-gunners are saying guns should not be sold like fast food. Well, I said, let's turn that on its head. What would it be like if fast food were sold like guns? Beyond a NICS check, the Nutritional Inventory Check System, run by the FDA, in a form FAST, if you lived in Illinois, you would have had to have your FFID card, your fast food ID. In California, you would order and pay for your food. You get to pick it up 10 days later. If you wanted extra ketchup, you would have to go through a separate condiment background check. In other places, you would need a separate check to get assault burgers, what you and I would call Big Macs and Whoppers. And the California compliant version of that would be a soy burger. That and more is at onlygunsandmoney.com.
All right, very cool. We're going to go ahead and set this one aside. Before we do that, I do want to encourage everybody, go to facebook.com and search for Polite Society Podcast Listeners. We've got a listeners group there that is growing all the time. And that does wrap up another episode of the Polite Society Podcast. Excuse me. I would like to thank Matt Larosiere of the Firearms Policy Coalition for joining us today. So for Amy, Tracy, Belle, Kat, Dana, Gary, John, Susan, Grant, Amanda, Monty, and Rob.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.